Good morning to all of you. It's been a pleasure memorizing the Bible with you and thinking through Scripture with you. And I have been trying to memorize a few more verses than normal just because we have started doing this little project. But I was thinking about this week and what maybe to memorize and what would be helpful to you. Came up with Micah 6:8. And that is a verse that one of my professors called the pinnacle of the Old Testament. And it says this: He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. I think that's the pinnacle of the Old Testament because that was at a point, if you don't mind, I'm going to read a couple of things in Micah. For example, Micah 2 says this, Micah 2 verse 1, Woe to those who scheme iniquity, who work out evil on their beds. When morning comes, they do it, for it is in the power of their hands. They covet fields and then seize them, and houses and take them away. They rob a man in his house and a man in his inheritance. So there are people who are schemers, they're deceivers, and they steal things. So they're in a culture of theft, taking things that are not their own. And it gets a little worse in 2 verse 8. Recently my people have arisen as an enemy. So they don't love justice at all. They're not walking humbly with God at all. They're not loving mercy or loving kindness at all. It says this: You strip the robe off the garment from the unsuspecting passers-by. That's unbelievable. Just stealing people's clothes on the street. From those who return from war. The women of my people you evict, each one from her pleasant house. From her children you take my splendor forever. How sad is that? They're in a culture that is destroying the family. It sounds kind of familiar to what's going on in today's world and the whole, movement, the Black Lives Matter, and everything is political. You don't know who to trust anymore. The media is out of control. This is a very, very difficult time just in the sense of knowing who to trust and knowing where to get your information. I think the way that you simplify all that and the way that you get out of that kind of world is to focus on Micah 6:8 and to really realize that God has required from us to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God. What does that look like? Well, it means that you can't legislate love. It seems like we're trying to do that in our nation. You can only love someone when you realize that God has loved you first and you have surrendered to that love, and then you realize His command and you understand that you need to love your neighbor as yourself. That's the only way you're going to love. The only way you're going to do justice is if you understand the commandments of God and why He really wrote them and why they're important. So we need to be a people of morality, and we need to do it ourselves, right? So what I'm saying here is, individually speaking, we all have to do justly, to act justly in our own private situations with other people. That's the only way people are going to see justice is if it comes from us. And how about walking humbly with your God? Just a quick comment here as we close. I used to really care about being right for my own vindication. And that still is a temptation today. It's still a problem. I'm in the flesh. It creeps up on me once in a while, but I have to tell you, the Lord has really changed my heart in that, and I've realized that it's not worth being quote unquote right if you're standing against God, which would make me wrong anyway. It's not worth being prideful over. It's much better to walk humbly with God, standing in righteousness, practicing righteousness, loving righteousness, and loving where it truly comes from. And that is from the Son of God Himself and from the Father. And we are so thankful for that. And that, again, in turn, because of what Christ has done, allows us again to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God.